Hello my dear viewers, it's finally here. New York City has been hit by really the first snowfall of the season. And as you see, instead of enjoying my time indoors in front of a good Netflix show or something like that, especially with temperatures getting below zero, I left shopping to the last minute. And well, here we are. But earlier in the week, I did have an opportunity to drive out to the Levy Park Preserve located in Merrick on Long Island, which is about 30 miles from Manhattan. This is really a cool place, but I will be honest, it's only my second time visiting it, so there's probably a lot I still don't know. Right there is the parking lot, and one of the first things that really catches your eye is this garbage can for bottles, which is shaped like, well, a bottle. Finally, some interesting design and quirk and not some standard plain trash. I don't know. Honestly, I like things like this. But right when you enter the park, we have a barn and some goats. Nigerian dwarf goats to be exact, and they are pretty friendly, or at least the ones I petted. And the other ones in the back seem like siblings fighting over the remote control for the TV. But the cool part is that many times the park ranger does let the goats go free on the trails outside of the enclosure. Because after all, they have a very important job to do in the park. And that is to eat the overgrown vegetation. This used to be a landfill, the Merrick landfill, which closed in 1984. And in the year 2000, this park was open to the public in its place. So yes, we are standing on top of a former landfill. Few months back, I already showed a place in Brooklyn, the Shirley Chisholm State Park, which was a former landfill as well, transformed into a beautiful park. And now we are standing in one on Long Island as well. Which is so great to see these former garbage sites get a new life as parks for people and animals to use and enjoy, and supposedly, if you are lucky, you can even spot red foxes in the park. I wasn't lucky on this trip. In fact, I wasn't lucky on the 2 trips, but like they say, third time is the charm, so maybe next time. Long Island began developing rapidly after World War II, so beginning in like the late 1940s, early 1950s, and with the fast growth of population, it became inevitable that landfills for waste would also be needed, and usually places which became landfills were either low-lying wetlands, like this is, simply because they are not ideal sites for development and housing, or places which were former sand pits. Long Island had lots of good sand which was used to build up New York City, like skyscrapers, bridges, subways, many of which used sand from Long Island. Therefore, in some areas there were these large holes from where the sand used to be taken. Once they were closed, some were converted to landfills for dumping waste. In recent years, many landfills closed or will be closing on Long Island, and most of the waste is actually transported to landfills in other states. And due to a law from the 1980s, no new landfills can be opened on Long Island. Okay, so let us walk all the way to the top, which is my favorite area of the park. As you see, there's always lots of ducks and geese enjoying the park as well. And as I stand here on top, one thing I can also mention is that the park is named after Norman J. Levy, who was a senator from Long Island, a resident of Merrick, who among many things in his tenure sponsored the first mandatory car seatbelt law. That's right, New York was the first state in the 1980s to make buckling your seatbelt a mandatory law, with other states quickly following in the example of New York. But as you see throughout the park, we have nice trails made out of crushed clam shells, so they look pretty nice. And right there is the windmill, which is used to keep the water circulating in the ponds themselves. However, I'm not sure whether it is currently working or maybe waiting for some form of repairs or maintenance. Here's where my knowledge falls flat, as I am not a regular goer to the park. Right here is probably one of the vents for gases, as things like methane gas are being created by decomposing waste below us. Remember, after all, this was a landfill. But the views in many directions are just gorgeous. Right there below us is the Meadowbrook Parkway, if anyone is familiar with the area. This is the view from the other side. Right there below us is the golf course. And right here in this section, on a clear day like today, you even see the Manhattan skyline. Right there behind that water tower in the distance. It's not that easy to see on a video, however in person you can definitely see it, but just in case, you do have free binoculars. I don't even know what the technical official name is. I guess tower viewers, to see it better. But there are two other interesting things on top by the windmill. First, in case anyone is here for the first time or is not sure of their directions, on the ground there are arrows identifying in which directions to look to see certain places. Like for example the Manhattan skyline I just showed you, or Jones Beach Theater. And next to it is the human sundial. Step on the month you are in, and then raise your hand straight above your head, and your shadow will tell the time. So we are in December, and it was 9:40 in the morning. And I'll be honest, when I put down my cell phone and I did this properly, it was right on the spot. So you can walk around the ponds themselves and enjoy the views, or in our case, we will continue on because there is one more place I really would like to show you at the end of the park itself. This right here, the fishing pier. My luck, no one was fishing at the time I was there, so I couldn't even start a conversation with somebody if this was a good spot for fishing or not. But it certainly is very peaceful and beautiful. Right there is that golf course I mentioned earlier. And there is Merrick. On the other side, there is a pretty good view of Jones Beach. Right there in the distance is the Jones Beach Water Tower and Theater. And as we make our return journey to the parking lot on the other side, you can see the low wetlands, essentially low-lying area which is regularly flooded. From the parking lot itself, you can also walk up to the kayak launching site. If you have a kayak, for example, you can indulge in this feature of the park. Or you can just take a short walk behind the ranger station to like this sort of observation area from which you can see the wetlands. Which means if anyone is interested in things like bird watching, for example, this is a fairly good spot. Like always, I hope you enjoyed this video and the location, and I wish all of you a happy and peaceful week ahead. Take care, everyone.